Hi there, this is Matt Johansson welcoming you to the Dollar Prop Startup Company podcast. I'm the first intern hired for Dollar Prop LEDs.
And I'm Adam, the second intern ever hired from today is October 8th, 2020. And today we got the privilege of coming to you just the interns.
Yeah, Derek's off back at home taking care of some stuff. So it's just the two of us running the podcast today. It's going to be very similar to last week's and what we talk about. We'll just review just the week, how it's been, our social media, yellow pages, and contacting people, as well as our packaging options. So just this past week, nothing super new happened. We did a lot more research for the social media, the packaging, again, the customers. We put together some sheets for pricing for the packages. I know Adam started the sheet for customers.
Yeah, so I started a sheet to kind of start our expansion a little bit, just to kind of see who we're targeting. Broke it down by cities, and also broke it down by the, like, what if they're apartment, if they're residential, if it's a business, those sorts of things. Just trying to see what market is best for us and where we should probably start directing most of our efforts into.
Nice. And then just a fair warning, there's going to be an ad here playing soon in the next minute or so. And then there'll be another ad in the middle of the podcast and at the end of the podcast. And if you'd do us a favor and just listen to those, it helps us reach our goal of making a couple cents off of each ad listened to. And speaking of that, last week we set our goal to, 30 cents a week?
30 cents a week, yeah. We're going to just... I didn't post the podcast until yesterday. I had a rough weekend filled with midterms and such, and so it was a rough weekend for me. So you guys are going to get a nice little 2-for-1 special. With one published yesterday, and then whenever Matt decides to post the one that we create today.
Yeah, so hopefully that'll help boost that a little bit. But just we made 4 cents this last week, so compared to our goal of 30 cents, not great. So we might want to take a look at that with Derek again when he's back and see if we want to update that goal again. Maybe something a little more realistic. Maybe even just back down to 10 cents again. But yeah, we've been sharing those podcasts on our social media for people to find. And so as Adam's taken over this week, that's something he can do, share that podcast he just published on our social media a couple times this next week.
Yep. I got all sorts of posts ready for you guys when you guys want to just see our Twitter, see our Pinterest, and our Instagram. Those are probably our biggest 3 that you guys might want to check out here and there. Remember, it's at Dollar Probs. LEDs, and yeah, all right.
Yeah, so Adam's taking over social media this week. This last week, it was my turn making posts every day for the different platforms, and this was the week where we started implementing what we had researched the week before and how to grow our followers and how to get more interaction with our posts. So I just spent some time, specifically on Instagram. I'd try and spend like 20 minutes before on the Dollar Props page, and I'd go like and interact with the accounts we'd follow in hopes that it would boost our post for them to see it more. We did get a few more comments than we usually do. Likes were about the same, so I don't know how much it really helped, but hopefully if we keep it up and keep posting consistently, it'll start to take effect. With Facebook, it did seem to work more, or at least posting consistently is starting to work. We're getting more engagements on each post. I think we had 1 or 2 likes on each page this last week. So I think that's just starting to take effect of the posting consistently again on our pages. So it is growing a little bit, getting a few more interactions with all the posts. So hopefully as we keep that up, and I even shared a few I think 2 different quotes on the pages, and those got a couple comments each and more interactions than I think the business one. So as we do, I think that's a good thing to do. Just probably not even do 2 days in a row of our business. At least like every other day, do something.
Yeah, kind of like what we stated last week. Just you don't want to have it like people just get annoyed when it's the same thing over and over again. You want to have variety to make it more appealing to others. So that's something that I'll also focus on this week, and then also make sure to post them at like reasonable times, so that they are at high like viewing hours, so that we can get have more access right away, and hopefully just continue expanding.
All right, so that's it for social media this week. And then as far as the yellow pages and trying to contact people, we're still working on, or at least Derek's working on putting together a script in a standard email that we can start contacting potential customers. And we split up some different geographical areas last week, so I've been taking over Lehigh. So I don't have it here in front of me, but I looked up a few businesses in smaller apartment complexes. There's not as much like student housing, so not as many apartments in Lehigh, but I did put together a little list of places that I could start to contact once we get those scripts together. And then
I do believe I have the Provo area. There is a lot of like student housing and apartment complexes around there, so I think that's where my big focus is going to be as we start contacting people. I just, I feel like that's kind of like like a nice little whale, because you get one apartment complex, you got a minimum of like 40 apartments, and each one's probably got 5 or 6, or a minimum of like 6 or 7 lights, and so I feel like that'd be a great place to start. Derek, I know he has the.
You take Orem?
I think he took the Orem area, which is right next to Provo, so we might have some boundary issues there. But there's also a lot of apartment complexes and a lot of like small businesses over towards the mall, especially. So yeah, he's going to be staying around there, and then I also, like I said earlier in the podcast, I created a little sheet, Excel sheet, just to kind of track who we've contacted, who is like better leads, kind of where we should focus our attention, just to make sure that, especially as being a young developing company, you want to make sure that you're not spending all your time and resources on things that just clearly aren't working. I don't know Derek's thoughts on it, but me personally, I feel like it's something you want to go with what works, and then later on worry about expanding into other markets, just trying to get your foot in the door,
Yeah, and with that, I guess finding potential people and getting our foot out in the door, a few thoughts I had this week to propose to Derek. I guess he can listen on the podcast, or a summary we'll write to him. But either like I don't know what to call it, like a trade show, I guess, or like a booth, places where people set up booths and businesses set up booths. If that's something we could look into, I don't know how, effective that would be, but if we could set up a booth and that way, like, contact people that way, or even just go to those and have business cards that we can hand to the booths there. I know UVU has like their apartment, like they have, and not so much with COVID, but they used to have like apartment days where like all the apartment complexes would be in the hallways here. I'm trying to get people to come stay with them. So if that's something we could do, like hand out cards to them.
Yeah, they also have like internship fairs and stuff like that. Just all sorts of fairs running down the hallways, so that you could just for exposure, And it was more for like student exposure, but for a small business like this, that would also be a good way to. Yeah, it's actually a really good thought. I did not think about that at all.
Yeah, so maybe just get our name out there, and then along that same thought with residential, I don't know. I hate knocking doors. Like I'm not a big fan of that, and nobody really is. Nobody likes random businesses or people coming up to your door.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people like that had small businesses, and like neighborhoods growing up, they would hand out flyers all the time. So if that's something, as far as residential, I'm not sure. I was just thinking of how to like contact residents, like just regular homeowners, like it's not super effective to just knock on doors, but if we could maybe put together a bunch of flyers for cheap and just go hang them on doors, might be a lot more effective.
Yeah, just
to get our name out there.
It'd just be very interesting, like how do you pitch that knocking doors? You're just like, hey, how are your light bulbs doing? It's like, I mean, any other light bulb, I mean, I know I've talked to my parents about it, and because like kind of one of the ideas is that we would be, we'd kind of like package up the light bulbs and give it to them, or the LEDs, and be delivering it to like their doorstep type of thing. And so like when I was talking to my dad specifically, he was like, that's actually like a really good idea, because like, who wants to go to the store every time you need a new light bulb? I mean, if you just have like, somehow you could figure out like a recurring payment, every month you get like 6 new bulbs or something like that, just for like a quick $10, or something. I don't know, but I feel like that'd also be kind of like an interesting thing to do, just to have like a little bit of almost like residual income, just to try to keep, just to at least try to keep the company afloat,
Yeah. No, I like that idea a lot. That's something to think about. All right. So then next, I guess Derek was working more on this as well, the packaging and boxes. Like I mentioned earlier, I put together a sheet where we could put all that info in to get more clear on what the prices would be and where we can get the cheapest options. So I've put that together, and I put a few things in there. It looks like nothing else has been added in there yet, so we don't have a great idea yet of what the cost is actually going to be for packaging our own things. But as we've talked about before, and even in some communication from Derek this week, is that this is probably the best idea, or the best way to sell them, is to package them ourselves, even super simple packaging with maybe even just a sticker. Just so people don't, not that we're trying to hide it from them, but so people don't like get mad at us just for selling them in a great value box. Like they can know it's from Walmart, but it just adds a sense of it's our own company and like it's our own thing when we have our own packaging and our own label for it. So.
It's like a branding,
Yeah.
It's like just having our logo out there. Be way more effective in marketing, and then also, like you said, I feel like it kind of gives a little bit more trust when you have like your own packaging and stuff, instead of like, oh, we went to the store and now it's at your doorstep. I feel like it builds a little bit more trust, like when it's personally packaged. As far as findings, as far as like packaging and boxes go, I know that we saw last week, we were looking at those ones that you had found. Mm-hmm. And then I honestly forgot we were supposed to be doing that again. I know Derek said that he was looking into that. He was going to focus a lot more on that this week, because last week he didn't spend a lot of time on it, so he kind of wanted to make that a main focus. And so I just remember the boxes that we were looking at were all fairly they're all good sizes and they're fairly cheap, so that's always good. And then something I feel like we'll probably need to revisit here pretty soon with Derek is pricing with packaging, now that we've figured out some of our packaging. Just because every added expense does affect the pricing a little bit more, because you're trying to make a profit. Whether the margins are really slim, the goal is to still make a profit, or else it's kind of worthless to have a company. So I guess probably next week we should probably start looking into that. I know I'm not like scheduled to be working on that, but I just feel like that's something I need to do. I'm just going to be taking a little bit of a look on how we could do pricing and packaging costs, just to have something that we can actually start selling it.
Yeah, and that's something I put together an Excel sheet for like how we can sell them, and so I mean it's pretty simple right now, but it just puts all the prices of the light bulbs we get them for, and then I guess that's all we have right now for our cost is light bulbs. But as we add boxes and stickers or just the packaging, whatever we do, we can add those, so it adds it all up. And then I just put in a standard like markup price of like 50%. That's a lot of like retail standard markups. I don't know what we'd want to do, but if we just had a standard like markup price for what our cost is, I think that might be like a most effective way to go about it, rather than having a bunch of random prices, like just based on what we think. So that's something, like you said, we can visit with Derek again. It's just like work on pricing and maybe coming up with a standard markup. Once we get all our costs put together, we know how much it costs us, and we can know what our price would be from there.
Yeah, because it's kind of hard, because light bulbs are something that, like, it's not hard to find. Like, literally, you can go to your local Walmart and find it. It's just a matter of making the price reasonable to make people not want, or to make it worth it for people to just have it delivered straight to them instead of them going themselves to, like, the local store. So I guess the pitch does matter as well.
Yeah, just making it convenient for them, and
focus on convenience, and we'll just have to develop it, trial and error.
Yeah. Well, that's about all we've got this week. We're about 20 minutes into it, so by now you've probably heard a few ads going. Next week we'll be a lot more in depth. Again, we didn't have Derek this week, so a lot of stuff we couldn't run by him and get his thoughts on. So next week will be a longer episode, and I know Derek had plans for the script that we had, so maybe even on the podcast we'll begin contacting some people, sending out some emails, maybe even have Derek call a few companies and sell our pitch to them, so you won't want to miss next week's episode. But thanks for joining us this week. Again, this is Matt Johansson.
And this is Adam Hughes.
Hope you guys have a great week.
Good day.